All right, you got your book and your chapter 28 and 29 questions, which was 2 pages, handily right next to each other, so we don't even need to flip it all today. Let's look over our homework and correct those questions once my computer decides to load. Thinking. All right, and we'll scroll a lot of ways. Yeah, we're so far in our book, aren't we? We are almost done. We are going to finish today. Maddie, what? This is not our last book. We have at least one more. It is a summer-ish themed book.
Oh, yeah. Is it sad?
I don't think it's sad.
Is it a book that's sad?
Some of you might have read it before.
Okay.
It has summer-themed stuff in it. And it's about a brother and a sister. There is not a movie that I know of. The cover, well, it depends on the version, but it probably isn't. No.
Good.
Alright, we will talk about that soon. No, I gotta keep you coming back. It's not Magic Treehouse, I promise you that. You can read all the Magic Treehouse you want for fun another day. Right. I don't know off the top of my head. Alright, holy moly. Little volcanoes erupting all over the classroom today. Except for back there for once. That's nice. Way to go, back four. Way to go. Alright. Chapter 28. Questions. Describe the sights the boy saw as the boat came into the Hudson River. What did they see? So in chapter 28, it was very descriptive about what they saw as their boat was coming in to the river. Rosie?
Besides the boy were Lady Liberty with her torch held high, her calm strength standing firm against the wind and water she followed ever.
Whoa, talking about Lady Liberty being strong and all the water around them. Awesome. What else might you have added? Monica?
Oh, I also did like the castle like talks about.
Talking about how Ellis Island looked like a castle, right? Remember Antonio was like, whoa. What else, Amelia?
Buildings with more than 2 stories.
They saw buildings with more than 2 stories. Because remember, most of these immigrants had never seen that. And they were like, those are so tall. And Dominic's like, tall?
Those are not even tall at all.
Good. All right. We talked about this a little bit. What does the Statue of Liberty represent to the passengers or the immigrants? What does the Statue of Liberty represent? Lily?
I think it's freedom.
It represents freedom. Good. What else does it represent? Adam?
Like
You're in the land of the free. Alicia? They're finally free. What else, Maddie? Freedom, yep. Anything different than freedom or the land of the free? Rosie?
The Statue of Liberty represents to the passengers the journey is over and they are.
The journey is over, and they're finally getting to start, and they're home now. They're in a new home. Bennett?
Like a signal of hope.
A signal of hope. Why would you say hope? Well,
Because, like in America, they can get jobs, they can actually get money.
they can have jobs and have money, right? They can have a safe life. All of those are wonderful answers, friends. Way to go. Let's look at number 14. Remember, we wanted to compare and contrast the ferry ride in 1908 to Dominic's present day. So when Dominic took it for his field trip. Let's start with similarities. I always like to start in the middle. What were some things that were similar that you might have put here in the middle? Kateri?
They both have the Statue of Liberty.
They both have a Statue of Liberty. You are right. What else, Bennett?
They're on a ferry.
They're on a ferry. Yeah, they're on that kind of boat. Anything else that was the same? Rose?
There's still immigrants who live there?
There's what?
Still immigrants who live there?
There's still immigrants.
Like coming there?
Do they go through that exact ferryway?
What?
Do immigrants go? No, so that one is one of the differences. Which side would that one go on? The past, yep. We still have immigrants, but they don't go through Ellis Island. That's why Dominic can go, and it's like a museum now. Huh? Anything else that is similar? Adam?
Both riding water.
They're both riding water?
Yeah, riding water.
They're in the water. Yep, they're on that ferry in the water. Alicia? Dominic's on both. Yeah, that's an easy one. Dominic's on both of them. Bennett? It's in New York still. Yup. Lizzie?
There was still at least 3 boys in there.
There's at least 3 people. Good. And Amelia? It's a boat. Yep, a ferry. It's a boat. Good. All right, let's go. Let's go to the past. All right, let's work our way from the past now. What's something different in the past that Dominic isn't used to? What's something different? Brooke?
The Empire State Buildings and the Twin Towers, like some of his favorite buildings.
Good. So on the past side, you might have said no tall buildings. And on the present side, then you might have listed like the Empire State or the Twin Towers. That one we can kind of get both sides done. Good. What are other things that were different? Claire?
Mine was kind of like Brooke. It's like buildings have like 3 to 5 stories. That's what I think.
Yeah, we have kind of shorter buildings, 3 to 5-ish. And then the New York present, you might have said really tall buildings, right? Like at least 15 stories tall. Good. Okay. What else, Thomas?
It was crowded.
In the past, it was really crowded. What was it like in the present then?
So much research.
It was so much room. How did we know there was more room in the present time? Do you remember what Dominic said? He's like, there's so much more room in the present time. What was he able to do? Do you remember, Thomas? He could run along the deck. Can he do that in 1908? No, remember, there's like sardines packed in there, shoulder to shoulder, just staring out. What else might you have said for the past and present differences? Lizzie?
Dirty water.
They had dirty kind of water in the past and maybe cleaner in the present. Bennett?
The past is in the past, and the present is in the present.
Okay, Mr. Literal. The past is in the past and the present is in the present. You might have said the times like 1908, and then like we figured 2000 or 1997, somewhere around there. Anything else you had down? I think you guys kind of caught the big ones.
Let's go with it.
Good. All right, 15. Why was it necessary to check the immigrants for diseases? You can kind of use your schema, remember what you know already, to help answer this one.
I think we talked about it.
And we talked about it a little bit. Isaac, what do you think? Yeah, it was necessary so diseases didn't get passed on to people in America. Any other reasons you thought of, Bennett?
No, pretty much.
Pretty much yours. Lily, you had a bit different?
Well, they were all traveling on the boat. Not very much with food and water.
So why is it necessary to check them? Oh, it's okay. Ryan?
So like they're like clean.
So they're clean, right? Do we want America filled with dirty people who are going to get everyone sick? No. Remember, what kind of people do people want coming into America? Healthy. Why do we want young, healthy people? Do you remember why? Remember why, Monica? So we can have a stronger country and so they can do more work, right? You don't want somebody to come in and be like, yeah, you can just sit on your couch, right? They wanted people who are going to do work and help America become better, right? They don't want just anybody to come in. They want people who are going to make it better. All right. What excited Dominic at the end of chapter 28? Do you remember, Zach? You can just tell me if you remember. So use your coupon, I know. You don't remember? That was so exciting, though. How could you forget? What was so exciting, Adam?
What made Dominic excited was that Francesco had the key.
Francesco had the key still. He had Salvatore's key. You might have taken it one stretch farther
I did like the
and said that he's thinking it might be that Francesco might be his great-grandfather. Awesome. Those are awesome. Either one is fabulous. Both are great. All right. What did Francesco scratch into the pillar? He scratched something. Remember Antonio found that pin and Francesco took it and Antonio was kind of grumpy. He's like, you get to draw. What did he draw, Amelia?
He drew Violetta with wings.
Yeah, he drew Violetta with wings. But something was left out of his drawing. What was left out, Holly? Food. Food, because Violetta is always eating. What?
Number 17, and I said
The most beautiful goat in Italy? Sure would be, because those are the exact words that Francesco said from the story. So that shows me that you went back and found it. So I would definitely accept that. 19. The boys, why are they called the Cantori brothers now? The story told us what happened. Why are they the Cantori brothers now according to the book? Not just your words. Think through what happened in the book, Thomas. You lose it?
Yeah.
Christian, you help him out?
Because I just guessed the next name.
Kinda. You're close. What happened in the book? Why did they tell Francesco your name's Cantori? Remember, Zane?
Because they wrote it down like that.
They wrote it down. Who wrote it down like that? You're right. Who did? Adam?
Like that boat agent.
The shipping agent wrote their name down wrong, and they were just like,
Cantori brothers.
Cantori, here you go. What did Dominic discover then at the end of chapter 29? Kateri?
That the Candiano brothers and Dominic were relatives.
That the Candiano brothers and Dominic probably are relatives because now they have the same last name. Good. It always reminds me of the Croods with the little sloth. Da, da, da. All right. Then we skipped this middle part, right? All right, and let's go on to our vocabulary. What did you get for steerage? What does steerage mean? Which letter? Which letter means steerage? Lizzie? D. The part or accommodations allotted to passengers who traveled at the cheapest rate. Correctamundo. D is taken. What about parcels? This one is a tricky one. Parcels. Talked about the old woman under the heavy burden of her parcels. You know, Nathan? Yeah, parcel is a really fancy way to say package. So now you could say when you go home, oh, has my Amazon parcel been delivered? And Mom and Dad will be like, your what? And you're like, my parcel, my package. And they'll be like, oh, you got a cool 4th grade teacher who teaches you cool words. And you'll be like, this one is a tricky one. Cavernous. It's a describing word. Cavernous. Bennett? Yeah, full of small cavities. What do you kind of hear in cavernous? You kind of hear cavity. I hear a cave. And when I think of a cave, I think of that hollow space, right? So that kind of helps us figure out our meaning of our words, too. All right, billowing is a verb. So you're looking for one of the words that start with that to at the front. Is an action. If something is billowing, what is it doing? Lily, what's it doing? No, I don't think it's to demand something noisily. You're close, though. It's kind of noisy. It's kind of noisy. Monica? J, to shout or to roar.
It kind of sounds like bellowing, so that's how I did it.
Billowing and bellowing. Yep, go very closely together. Good. All right, ebbed. I love this word. Ebbed. Okay, something ebbed away. What do you think, Nathan? To fade or to get weaker, yeah. Maybe your fear ebbed away. What is your fear doing? It's fading, okay? You might say I don't know, I can't think of another one right now. Salvatore's life ebbed away. You're right though. That's an awesome use of the word, Brooke. All right, let's go on to weariness. Weariness. What do you think, Adam?
The feeling of being very tired or exhausted.
It is E. Oh, weariness at our school week dragging on. Anyone feel weary this week a little bit? Very tired or exhausted? Oh, goodness. All right. 7 is a weird word. We don't hear this word a lot. Births. Births. Not like birth, like if a baby is born. This is with the E, but it's pronounced very similar. What do you think, Bennett?
A bed in a ship, a train, or an airplane?
It is another word for a bed, a ship, in a ship, train, or airplane. So it's G.
A car. If you had a ship bed, then it would be called a berth.
It would be called a berth, yep. So if you had like the bunk beds they're on, those are called berths. Yep. Or like if you ever been on anyone ever been on a train with like the beds tucked like into the wall like that? Elijah, maybe? Yeah. They're really cool, but they're called berths. So just whenever they're on something that moves like that, it's called a berth. Now you know a new word. Threadbare. You might have said that Salvatore's shirt was threadbare for Dominic. What do you think threadbare means then? Rose?
Something that is old and worn out.
Something that is old and worn out. Letter A for number 8. Good. What about 9? Clamored. What'd you get for that one, Adam?
To demand something that is illegal.
Yeah. Mrs. Wells clamored for your attention. Right? I might say, no, get off really loud. And they'd be like, she's clamoring again. And I'll be like, no, again. All right, 2 more. This one is a really weird word. What do you notice about the writing of this word?
It's like there's a little thing.
The C has that little thing underneath. This actually comes from, I believe it's French. Do you know the word? Do you know what word it is? Facade. Good. Facade. So we have 2 choices left. Is a facade the front of a building or the entryway someone wants to be seen, or a great deal of noise? I or C? It is C. It's the front of the building. And then 11 is I. The din in the hall. Remember how loud that hall was? The din of it. It should be I. A great deal of noise. Perfect, friends. Who is ready to finish up our book today? Me too.
I haven't gotten the book part yet.
We will talk about it at the end.
I'm excited because I want to read the book, but I'm sad because I want to keep reading the new book.
All right, let's finish up our reading part today, and tomorrow will be our last day kind of talking more about the book, okay? Chapter 30. Dominic stared at Francesco. He could see the resemblance now. Francesco's eyes were the same color and shape as his own. They both loved animals, and they had the same laugh. Why hadn't he recognized it before? My great-grandfather, he thought. He longed to tell Francesco all about it, but he knew that Francesco would think he was crazy or sick in the head from the earthquake. Meanwhile, Antonio had to go to the bathroom, and Francesco was ready to take him outside when the man behind them told them about the indoor toilets. Dominic was to keep their seats until they returned, but as he watched them walk away, an odd fear suddenly gripped him. Maybe he should go after them. Maybe he shouldn't let them out of his sight. Now that he had found them, and he knew who they really were, and who he was to them, Dominic wanted them close by. He waited anxiously for them to return, and when they finally did, Dominic sighed with relief. As they stepped forward in line, they heard a woman in front of them talking about the Italian Aid Society. She pointed to a table that people were crowding around. They will help you find the people you are to meet, the woman was saying. Dominic and Francesco looked at the table and then at each other. They knew that their time together was coming to an end. Francesco, Dominic began. Yes, Francesco answered. I don't know. Dominic fumbled for the right words. He felt suddenly embarrassed and lowered his eyes to the floor. It's just that everything is happening so fast, he blurted out. And soon you'll be off to New Jersey and I may not see you for a while. Francesco nodded his head as if he understood. Dominic looked up to meet his large, dark eyes that matched his own. I'll never forget you, Dominic whispered. All of you. And I hope you won't forget me. Forget? Francesco smiled. Who could forget Familia? He reached out and hugged Dominic hard. And this time, for the first time, Dominic hugged him back. What about me? Antonio squeaked. Dominic grinned and bent down to give him a big hug, too. I bet you won't even recognize me the next time you see me, Dominic, Antonio announced. Why do you think Antonio's saying that? Remember his dream? No, why not? Dominic asked. Because I'm going to eat so much food here in America that I will look as if you are made like a mushroom. Dominic finished his sentence.
Oh my.
Why is that funny? Why would he finish it that way?
Salvatore said that's a sausage.
Remember, Salvatore said that about sausage, so he's kind of calling back to the earlier part in the book. The three boys stood silent for a second, and then they all began to laugh as they wrapped their arms around each other in one big hug. They stood in a line for a long, long time until they had stopped moving altogether. People had begun to sit on their suitcases and bundles. Dominic was glad that the line wasn't moving. They hadn't slept much the night before, and they hadn't eaten in hours. All the excitement of landing had left them exhausted. Dominic and Antonio slumped down against the back of a large basket beside a woman nursing a baby. It felt so good to sit that Dominic decided not to get back up until he had to. He felt his eyes begin to droop. Dominic watched as Antonio tapped his grimy little fingers over the brightly painted red and yellow flowers on his concertina. The baby, in the mother's arms beside them, began to fuss, and Antonio offered to play a lullaby to help calm him. The sound was so soothing that Dominic found it hard to keep his eyes open. Just a little nap, he mumbled as his head began to fall onto his chest. He thought he heard Francesco call his name over the din of voices and the soft melody of the concertina, and then he heard nothing at all. What do you infer is going to happen next? Don't read. Bennett, what do you infer? Why do you think but he slept before. Why is he going back in the future now?
Because he went back into the past when he fell asleep, and now he's falling asleep again, and I think he was going to go back. On the boat.
But he fell asleep in Italy. So why is this falling asleep so different? Think through what's happened.
He's in Ellis Island right now.
He's in Ellis Island. What else has happened that might make this time different? Alasia? He was trying to figure out who his family was, and he's done that. Think through what kind of sent him back into the past, do we think? Francesco, what did Francesco on the phone say? What did he say?
He said, little lullaby.
Monica?
He said just a little, Dominic said just a little nap before, I'm pretty sure. And also, they're in the same place as I fall asleep.
You are right. They're back kind of in that same place right there at the museum. Dominic has found his family. Think back to the old man's words. Think back, friends, to the old man's words on the phone. What was that phrase that he told Dominic? Remember, open your heart, little one, and all that you wish shall be yours.
So he opened his heart.
How did he open his heart?
He opened his heart by letting Antonio come into his life.
He let them come into his life. Think through this chapter we read in particular. Take a look through this chapter we just read, 20 or 30. What particularly happened that proves he opened his heart? He didn't grab his heart. What happened in the book Ryan?
Like he fully hugged Francesca and Antonio.
He fully hugged Francesco and Antonio. Has he done that yet?
No.
So he's finally opened his heart. He's given them hugs back, right? Well, do you think it's because he just hugged them? Why is he hugging them fully?
Because he doesn't want to go.
Because he doesn't want them to go, which means he's done what? He's opened his heart. He loves them, right? All right, let's go on to 31. Wake up, son, a deep voice called. Francesco? Dominic moaned, his eyes still closed. Blinking hard, Dominic looked up to see a man in modern clothes staring down at him. What does that kind of tell us?
He's back.
What part of it tells us he's back in the...
They're wearing modern clothes, and back then they were wearing like old.
Yeah, modern means like new clothes. Good. Now, where did you come from? The man asked in English. Why is that important?
Because he speaks
Remember, he couldn't speak English before. He could only speak Italian. Now he understands that it's English. Where am I? Dominic cried. Where's Francesco? He was shocked to hear himself speak in English. You're at the Ellis Island Immigration Museum. I'm one of the rangers here. The museum? Dominic gasped. Rangers? He looked down to see his clean T-Rex t-shirt. And there on his chest, hanging from the gold chain, was his lucky key. He clutched it with his trembling fingers. What year is it? He whispered. I suppose if you hang around long enough in here, the ranger laughed, you do sort of forget what year it is. No, you don't understand, Dominic tried to explain. You see, I was here with my class when I fell asleep, and then I woke. I think what happened is you fell asleep and you had yourself quite a dream, the ranger interrupted. What's your name, kid? Dominic. Dominic Cantori, he sputtered. What happened to your shoes? Dominic stared down at his bare feet, his clean, unbruised feet. I left them in the closet downstairs, he said. Don't worry, we'll pick them up, the ranger told him as he helped him to his feet. Dominic looked around at the softly lit display cases, the modern lighting overhead. He took a deep breath. The air was clean and cool. Come on, we better get downstairs and give your family a call, the ranger said. My family? Dominic repeated the words aloud. Before the ranger could stop him, Dominic spun around and reached for the phone where he had first heard Francesco's voice. And as his heart pounded in his chest, he held the receiver to his ear. Let's keep reading. Chapter 32.
Yes.
I came to America when I was a boy of 11 years old, the familiar voice began. Francesco, Dominic whispered into the receiver. It's me, Dominic. He held his breath and waited for the reply. In Italy, we had very little, and yet we had so much, the voice continued. I know. You had Violetta and Father Tommaso and your brothers and me. You had me. You said we were familia, remember? Francesco, please, just say you remember, Dominic pleaded. In Italy, we had a goat. Come on, kid, the ranger said, trying to take the receiver from his hand. What do you say we get downstairs now? I just wanted to hear him say that he remembered, Dominic whispered. Dominic reluctantly put down the phone and followed the ranger through the display rooms into the hall, past the large photographs hanging on the walls. But he slowed his pace, staring up at the many faces of the newly arrived immigrants in the pictures. He felt an eerie stillness in the cooled air, an unnatural quiet, as the faces looked back at him, frozen in time. They were all talking, Dominic whispered. I heard their voices. I heard the babies crying and the people talking. They were laughing and shouting and alive. They were all alive. The ranger began to head back toward the escalator when Dominic suddenly stopped. Wait, he said, lifting his t-shirt. On my back. Do you see the marks on my back? The ranger leaned over to look at his back. No, I don't see any marks there. Maybe I did dream it, Dominic said, lowering his shirt as they continued walking down the hall. It's just that they all seem so real. They were all wearing old-fashioned clothes like the ones in those displays, he said, pointing to a glass case. The ranger just shook his head. Come on, he said, gently taking Dominic's arm. They were heading through a doorway when Dominic broke free and ran off in the other direction. As the ranger called for him to stop, Dominic made a dash for the escalator and raced up the steps to the 3rd floor. He hurried from room to room, from one display to the next. Was it all a dream? Or had it really happened? He had to find something that could tell him for sure. He stopped finally to catch his breath, and as he leaned against another large display case, he looked up to see the words in the case. Immigrant graffiti. Dominic pressed his face to the glass and peered into the case. Okay, kid, I'm out of patience, a voice suddenly called as the ranger came up behind him and grabbed his arm. This time, we're going downstairs. But Dominic didn't answer. He couldn't answer, for he was speechless. When his voice finally returned, he could think of only one word to say. Violetta, he whispered, placing his trembling fingers on the glass. For there, in the case before him, was a cracked piece of plaster on which the delicate outline of a little goat had been scratched. And from the goat's shoulders sprouted 2 graceful wings.
The thing is,
All right.
they were going around and down and randomly said,
I know. It's crazy. All right, so this is kind of weird, right? Dominic doesn't know if it's a dream or if it really happened.
I think it's a dream.
What evidence is there that it was a dream? What evidence is there that this might have been a dream? There's quite a bit. What evidence, Lily? He woke up. You got it. That's one thing. What else? Holly?
There's no marks on it.
Yeah, remember he asked the guard, check my back. And there was nothing there. What was Dominic thinking was going to be there?
A whip mark.
From the whip. Good. All right, what else? We have, he woke up from a dream. There's no marks on his back. Brooke?
He has his key back, and actually, from that, it was actually real. He sees Violetta.
Hold on. So he has his key back. Good. What else proves that this might have been a dream? There's quite a bit more, friends. Think through the start of the chapter. What else? Rosie?
I don't know which chapter this was, but he, it says his clean, unbruised feet.
Remember his clean, unbruised feet. Yeah. Which means that his feet haven't been through all of that dirt, right? All of the walking. They're clean and unbruised. There's something else that was clean. What else is clean? Maddie? His shirt. Remember? He's back in his T-Rex shirt. And is it dirty? No, it's like spotless. It's clean. Is there anything else you can think of that might prove this might have just been a dream? Ryan?
Does he woke up in the same spot that he fell asleep?
He woke up in that exact same spot by the telephones, right? He woke up right there, right where he fell asleep. Lizzie?
Francesco and the talkie back to him all the time.
Yeah, Francesco, remember, just kept going through his recording. And we had a goat, right? He just kept going through. All right, but why do you think it was real? Is there anything in this that makes us think that this might have really happened? Peter? Yeah, at the very end, he saw the immigrant graffiti, right? And he saw Violetta, this little goat, and it had wings. Like, how often is somebody going to draw a goat with wings on it? That's pretty unlikely. And on the plaster, too, that he did it. And there was no food next to Violetta. Ooh. What else might prove that this really happened? Adam?
I actually have a theory. I think that Dominic, when he went back in time, everything that happened with Dominic was a dream, but then everything that they did on their own was real.
Ooh, so maybe Dominic's dream was that he went back to the time, but these things really did happen to Antonio and to Francesco and to Salvatore. That's a cool theory. What else are you thinking? Claire?
So, in the dream, if you, I feel like you wouldn't be able to, feel anything. So,
Ooh.
you wouldn't, really feel it.
Because usually in dreams, you know what happens if you start to feel like you're in danger?
Yeah.
You wake up, right?
Once he feel like he was in danger.
That's a...
I'll say, okay, I'm in a dream, in my dream, and I try to wake myself up, but I can't.
And that's what Dominic did, right? He tried to wake up. No, but Claire, 4th grade friends, stories for another time. Claire's right. In dreams, you actually can't get hurt. It's like physically impossible for you to get hurt really, really bad. You wake up. You might do that, but are you like in danger? No. If you are like falling or something, you wake up. It's your body's response. So he actually got hurt and felt the pain, so maybe it was real, because he would have woken up otherwise. Nathan? You had the falling feeling, but you never hit the bottom. You always wake up. Zach, what else makes you think this might have really happened? All right, last one. Peter? Holy moly. All right, Peter, what are you thinking?
I think maybe he did actually know this, but then everything happened new for time until like when he woke up.
So kind of very similar to Adam's. Like he did go back and those things happened, but it was like a dream too, so then he's back in the normal time? No? Not really?
So it actually did happen to Rachel last week,
Okay.
but then once he fell asleep again, everything that like happened.
Ah. Okay, so he's saying he did go back in time and he did everything with them, and then when he fell back asleep, he time traveled to the future. I can find one flaw with that though. What doesn't match up with that then? What doesn't match up with Peter's? That's a really cool theory. What's wrong with Dominic actually time traveling back to the future now and the past? One, we can't really time travel. And think through Dominic. What did we say about Dominic? His clothes are clean. He doesn't have any of the marks. It's the only thing that's holding me back. But I like that theory. That's a really cool theory. All right, are we ready for the final chapter? All right, last chapter. Chapter 33. 3 weeks later, Dominic sat in Dave Santos' office at the Child Welfare Department. Do you remember who Dave is?
Yeah,
His caseworker. Good. I know it hasn't been easy for you these last few years, Dave said. I know you've had some bad breaks. I'm sorry about this last family deciding to move to California, but I've been looking, and I think I found the right one this time. They're nice people, Dominic. They have a big house with a yard, and 2 other boys lived with them. And this is the best part. The kids were foster kids that they have adopted. They want a family, and they are willing to adopt an older child. It won't be like some of those other homes where you were there on a temporary basis. If you can just bear with us and try one more time, this could be the one. Now let me find their file. As Dave shuffled through the piles of papers on his desk, Dominic thought about his modern American dream family. He thought about his familia in Italy. How could he ever find a family he could love as much as he loved them? He closed his eyes as their voices filled his ears. He could hear Francesco whispering to Violetta. He could hear Salvatore dreaming aloud about cowboys and Antonio singing along to the gentle notes from his concertina. So, what do you say, Dominic? Dave asked, looking up from his file. Are you ready to try another one? Can I tell them we'll meet with them tomorrow morning? Dominic opened his eyes. I'm ready, he said. Oh, and by the way, Dave added, the father is a veterinarian, so the kids have lots of pets. Dominic's eyebrows shot up. What kind of pets? He asked. Oh, let me see. There were dogs, a cat, a snake, an iguana, a parrot, and a goat? Dominic asked. A goat? Dominic grinned. They make the best pets, he said. I don't know about goats, Dave laughed. We'll have to wait and see. You'll continue to stay with the Jensens until they're ready to move out to California next week. Or, if we can settle on this family tomorrow, you could be moved in by Friday. Later that night, as he lay in the darkness of his bedroom at the Jensen's house, Dominic couldn't stop thinking about his adventure. Had he really gone to Italy? Had he really met his family? Was Francesco really his great-grandfather? Somehow, he was sure it was all true. Dominic reached for the golden key around his neck. He rubbed his fingers over the worn initials SC. Then he thought about the boy who first found that key so long ago in that far-off place, and how he had wished for it to unlock some buried treasure. Outside Dominic's window, the traffic sped by while the noise from the TV echoed off the walls in the room beside him. A man and a woman shouted in the apartment over his head, and yet the only sound that Dominic heard was the sound of a small concertina as it accompanied the rustlings of the olive leaves in the wind. Maybe the key had unlocked a treasure after all, he thought, for now he understood how he had always been and would always be a part of a family, and he could never lose those he loved. Not completely. Francesco and the others would be part of who he was for the rest of his life. The rest of my life, Dominic whispered aloud. As Dominic thought about the new people he'd be meeting tomorrow, the words of his great-grandfather, Francesco Cantori, drifted back to him, lulling him to sleep. "Open your heart, little one," he heard the old man tell him, "and all that you need shall be yours." Why, my friends who don't like it, why do you think it's the worst? Ryan? They don't tell us. Why do you think they don't tell us? Maddie, why do you... You can make a lot of inferences, and there's a pretty strong inference we can make. What inference can we make, and we feel pretty confident in it? Bennett? It's like the American Cantori, right? The modern day one. Because, is there anything really wrong with this family?
Yeah.
What's wrong, Kateri?
They never told us who they are, so they could have been nice.
They could, but they've adopted. We can confer that they are nice people. Why can we infer they are nice?
Because they are adopted and not a foster.
So they are fostering to adopt, and they've done it how many times? Two already. This would be the third, which kind of tells Dominic
Could be in
it's really likely that they're going to adopt me. Okay, Adam?
It said that they're fosters too.
Say it one more time.
It even said that they were fosters too.
They were fosters too, yeah. So they want these boys, right, to be part of their family. Why else is this perfect for Dominic and we know it's going to work?
There's so many pets.
All of the pets, right? And Dad would be a veterinarian, right? Like, oh my gosh. So they don't tell us, but do they kind of tell us that he's going to go with them? Yeah, they really do. All right, Brooke.
My question is that, you know the familiar golden key?
Yep.
I was thinking, like, at the end, what if the golden key was actually the thing that helped him time travel?
Maybe. That's a cool theory.
I know, because if he had the golden key, the golden key, like, used it, but since it was time travel, but it was
Maybe. Monica? That's kind of what I was thinking. The key, remember, why did Salvatore keep it? Was it because it was really valuable?
No.
He wanted to open treasure. And did Dominic kind of find a treasure? Dominic, what treasure did Dominic find? His familia, right? A family. And now he's found a real family to live with in America. Okay. I love this book. All right. So your homework is really short. Open up your packets to the next page then. It's just those 7 questions. Huh? Since there are so few, what are you going to promise Mrs. Wells to do? Full sentences, no one-word answers from anybody. Looking at this row. Looking at this row. And that one. And that one. And that one. And my last one. And Levi. And my distance learners. Full sentence answers. All right. Any questions? Take a look over those questions for me. Take a moment to just read through. Don't answer them yet. Just read through them. Do you have any questions about any of them? Lily?
Number 4, it says we discussed author's purpose.
Cross off number 4. Last year we did that. This year we're not doing it. You can cross. So you only have 6 questions then. If you want to do that for bonus question, I will give you a bonus point. Tell me, why do you think the author wrote this? Remember we talked about author's pie? Remember the purpose? A long time ago during MLK talk, we talked about author's purpose. They do it to persuade, to inform, or to explain, or to entertain. Okay, so you can think, if you tell me which reason, I'll give you a bonus point tomorrow. All right, that's all we got.